Governor Hyun-woo Park stood on his office balcony and watched the morning sun rise over New Seoul Colony. The orange light painted the wheat fields gold and made the small houses look warm and peaceful. 15 years ago, this planet had been nothing but rocks and dust. Now it was home to 50,000 humans who had worked hard to make it beautiful. Children ran through the streets below, laughing as they chased each other to school. So-min Lee carried her backpack and waved to her friends. She was only 8 years old, but already knew she wanted to be a farmer like her parents. Dong Hyun Kim rode his bicycle past the governor's building, his school books bouncing in the basket. He dreamed of becoming a pilot and flying among the stars. The colony had everything a growing community needed. Dr. Young Soo Han ran the hospital where he had delivered over 200 babies in the past 5 years. Teacher Na-rai Kim taught the children about Earth's history and helped them learn about their new world. Engineer Tai-min Cho kept the power plants running and the water clean. Everyone worked together to build their new life. Hyun-woo smiled as he watched the daily routine. Begin. Farmers drove their trucks to the fields. Shopkeepers opened their stores. The construction crews started work on the new community center. This was what humanity could accomplish when they worked together. This was why they had traveled so far from Earth. His assistant, Ji-hai Seo, knocked on his door. "Governor, we have a message from the orbital station," she said. Her voice sounded worried. Hyun-woo went back inside his office. The communication screen showed Captain Won-ho Lim, who commanded the small defense platform that watched over their planet. The captain's face was pale and his hands shook slightly. "Governor, we have detected multiple ships approaching our system," Captain Lim said. "They are not human ships. The computer does not recognize their design." Hyun-woo felt his stomach tighten. "How many ships?" 15 large vessels, sir. They are moving fast and heading straight for our planet. Have you tried to contact them?" "Yes, sir. We sent standard greeting messages in all known languages. They have not answered," Hyun-woo thought quickly. New Seoul had only one small defense station and a few patrol ships. They were not prepared for war. They were farmers and teachers and doctors, not soldiers. "Keep trying to contact them," he ordered. "Send our peaceful intentions. Tell them we are a civilian colony." Within an hour, the alien ships appeared in the sky above New Seoul. They were massive things, dark and angular, like giant metal insects. They moved without sound and cast shadows over the colony. People stopped what they were doing and looked up with fear and wonder. Hyun-woo activated the colony's emergency broadcast system. His voice reached every home and workplace in New Seoul. "Citizens, please remain calm. We have visitors from another world. Stay in your homes while we try to communicate with them." But the aliens had not come to talk. The first energy blast struck the orbital defense station. Captain Lim and his crew of 12 died instantly as their platform exploded in a ball of fire. The wreckage fell from the sky like burning stars. More blasts followed. The power plant erupted in flames. The communication tower collapsed. The hospital where Dr. Han worked was hit by a beam of purple light that turned the building to ash in seconds. People ran screaming through the streets. Parents grabbed their children and tried to find shelter. But there was nowhere to hide from the ships in the sky. Hyun-woo ran to the emergency communication room in the basement of his building. Communications officer Mi-young Choi was already there, working frantically at the controls. "Can you reach Earth?" he asked. "The main transmitter is destroyed," Mi-young said. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "But I might be able to boost the backup system. It will only work for a few minutes before they find us." Another explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, they could hear people screaming and the sound of buildings collapsing. "Do it," Hyun-woo said. Mi-young typed commands into the computer. The backup transmitter came online. She opened a channel to Earth, hoping someone would hear their desperate call. "This is New Seoul Colony on Kepler 442b, she said into the microphone. "We are under attack by unknown alien forces. They are destroying everything. Please, someone, help us!" The building shook again. The lights flickered. "There are 50,000 people here," Mi-young continued. "Families with children. We never hurt anyone. We just wanted to build a home." Her voice cracked with emotion. "Please remember us. Tell Earth what happened here." Hyun-woo took the microphone. "This is Governor Hyun-woo Park. If anyone receives this message, know that we tried to live in peace. We offered friendship to these aliens, but they chose war. Do not let our deaths be meaningless. Protect the other colonies. Do not let this happen again. Another blast hit their building. The backup transmitter sparked and went dead. Mi Young looked at the governor with tears in her eyes. Did the message get through? I hope so, he said. They could hear the aliens moving through the streets above them. Heavy footsteps and strange, clicking sounds. Whatever these creatures were, they were making sure no human survived. So Min Lee had been hiding in her family's storage cellar when the energy beam hit her house. She was alone now, scared and crying. Through a crack in the cellar door, she could see strange creatures with gray skin and 4 arms searching through the ruins. They had large black eyes and moved like spiders. Dong Hyun Kim had tried to help his younger sister escape, but they had not been fast enough. The boy held his sister's hand as the building fell around them. Teacher Narai Kim had gathered her students in the school's basement, but the walls could not protect them from the aliens' weapons. She held the children close and sang them a lullaby as the ceiling collapsed. All across New Seoul, the story was the same. The aliens showed no mercy to anyone. They did not try to capture prisoners or steal supplies. They simply killed everyone they found and destroyed everything humans had built. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, New Seoul Colony was nothing but smoking ruins. The wheat fields burned. The houses were piles of rubble. The dreams of 50,000 people had turned to ash. The alien ships gathered in formation above the dead colony. They had come to erase humanity from this world, and they had succeeded. No human voice would ever again laugh or cry or sing on Kepler 442b. As the alien fleet prepared to leave, their leader transmitted a message to his home world. In his language, he reported that the human infestation had been cleansed. The planet was now ready for proper colonization. The aliens did not know that Mi Young Choi's desperate transmission had reached Earth. They did not know that 50 billion humans had heard her final words. They did not know that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The ships disappeared into space, leaving behind only silence and death. But far away on Earth, humanity was listening, and humanity was beginning to plan its response. The message from New Seoul reached Earth at 3:47 in the morning, Geneva time. Admiral Sung Ho Nam was asleep in his quarters when his emergency communicator started beeping. He had been expecting routine reports from the outer colonies, not a desperate cry for help from dying humans. He sat up in bed and activated the device. Mi Young Choi's face appeared on the small screen, her eyes wide with terror. Behind her, explosions lit up the night sky of New Seoul Colony. This is New Seoul Colony on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. They are destroying everything. Please, someone help us. The Admiral's blood turned cold as he watched the transmission. He had been a military officer for 30 years and had seen many battles, but this was different. These were innocent civilians being slaughtered for no reason. The recording continued with Governor Park's final words, then cut to static. Admiral Nam stared at the blank screen for several seconds, his mind racing. Then he grabbed his uniform and ran for the command center. The Global Defense Headquarters beneath Geneva never slept. Officers from every nation on Earth worked together to protect humanity's growing presence in space. When Admiral Nam burst through the doors, the night shift looked up in surprise. "Get me President Yoon immediately," he ordered, "and contact every member of the Security Council. We have a code red emergency." Lieutenant Soo-Jin Park, the night communications officer, started making the calls. Within minutes, screens around the room showed the faces of world leaders being woken from sleep. President Eun Ji-yoon appeared first, her gray hair messy but her eyes sharp and alert. "What is the situation, Admiral?" she asked. "Ma'am, we have received a distress call from New Seoul Colony. They were attacked by alien forces 6 hours ago. Based on the transmission, it appears the entire colony has been destroyed." The silence that followed was deafening. President Yoon's face went pale. Around the room, other leaders joined the conference call. Prime Minister Davis from Britain, Chancellor Muller from Germany, President Chen from the Asian Federation. One by one, they learned the terrible truth. Defense Minister Tae Hyun-ko was the first to speak after Admiral Nam finished his report. How many people lived on New Seoul? 50,000 civilians, sir. Mostly families with children. President eyed. Yoon closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, her expression had changed. The politician was gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. Admiral, I want you to verify this information. Send scouts to New Seoul immediately. If this attack really happened, then we need to know everything about these aliens. Already. Done, ma'am. Captain Jin-ho Bae left 30 minutes ago in the fast scout ship Incheon's Blade. He should reach New Seoul in 18 hours. The president nodded. Good. Now I want an emergency session of the Global Security Council in 6 hours. Every nation, every leader. This concerns all of humanity. As world leaders signed off to prepare for the meeting, Admiral Nam remained in the command center. He called his staff officers and began planning for what might come next. They had protocols for alien contact, but not for alien attacks on civilian populations. Dr. Ye-jin Seo arrived first. She was the head of the Advanced Weapons Division, a secretive department that most people did not know existed. She was a small woman in her 40s, but her intelligence was legendary among those who worked with her. Admiral, I came as soon as I heard, she said. Is it true? Are we really at war? We will know for certain when Captain Bae reports back from New Seoul. But if the transmission is accurate, then yes. Some alien species has declared war on humanity. Dr. Seo sat down heavily in a chair. Then it is time to activate Project Nemesis. Admiral Nam nodded grimly. Project Nemesis was humanity's greatest secret. For 20 years, ever since first contact with alien species had shown that humans were not alone in the universe, Earth had been preparing for this day. They had hoped it would never come, but they had not been foolish enough to believe peace was guaranteed. How long do you need to bring the hidden fleets online? He asked. The Mars shipyards can be fully operational in 72 hours. The Europa fleet will take a week to break out of the ice. The asteroid bases need 2 weeks minimum. And the new weapons systems. Dr. Seo smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. The quantum drive tests finished last month. We can move ships instantly across any distance. The plasma lance arrays are ready for deployment. The adaptive AI combat systems are fully operational. Admiral Nam felt a grim satisfaction. For 2 decades, Earth's greatest minds had worked in secret to develop weapons that could protect humanity from hostile aliens. Politicians had called them paranoid. Peace activists had called them warmongers. But now their preparations might save the human race. Captain Bae's voice crackled over the intercom. Admiral, this is Incheon's Blade. I have reached New Seoul Colony. Report, Captain. There was a long pause. When Bae spoke again, his voice was tight with controlled anger. Sir, the colony is gone, completely destroyed. I am detecting no life signs anywhere on the planet. The cities are rubble. The farms are burned. Even the orbital station was destroyed. Admiral Nam closed his eyes. He had hoped against hope that the transmission had been wrong, that somehow people had survived. But now the truth was undeniable. Any sign of the attackers? Negative, sir. But I am picking up energy signatures that do not match any known human or friendly alien technology. I am recording everything for analysis. Return to Earth immediately, Captain. We need that data. 6 hours later, the most important meeting in human history began. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in the Security Council chamber. President Yoon called the session to order, and Admiral Nam presented the evidence. The recording of New Seoul's destruction played on screens around the room. 50 world leaders watched in horror as Mi Young-choi begged for help that would never come. They saw Governor Park's final message. They heard the sound of buildings collapsing and people dying. When the recording ended, the chamber was silent. President Yoon stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, we face the greatest threat in human history. An unknown alien species has committed genocide against 50,000 innocent people. They showed no mercy to children. They ignored attempts at peaceful communication. They seek to exterminate humanity. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every leader present. I call for a vote. Do we mobilize for total war against these aliens? One by one, the votes came in. The United States? Yes. Russia? Yes. China? Yes. India? Yes, every single nation voted the same way. For the first time in human history, Earth was completely united. Defense Minister Ko stood and activated a wall screen. It showed star maps and fleet positions that had been classified until this moment. Project Nemesis is now active, he announced. For 20 years, we have secretly built the largest military force in galactic history. We have 700,000 warships hidden throughout our solar system. We have weapons that can crack planets and defensive systems that can stop any attack. The leaders stared at the display in amazement. Ships hidden in asteroid belts, buried under the ice of Europa, camouflaged in the rings of Saturn. An entire, secret fleet that could destroy any enemy. We kept this secret to prevent panic, President Yoon explained. We hoped we would never need it. But the aliens who destroyed New Seoul are about to learn that humanity is not as helpless as they believe. Dr. Seo activated another display. Our intelligence suggests these aliens call themselves the Vorthak Empire. They have destroyed other species before us. They believe they have the right to kill anyone they consider inferior. Then they have made a fatal mistake, said Admiral Nam. They think we are weak because we value peace. They will learn that humans can be peaceful, or they can be the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but they cannot be both at the same time. The meeting continued for hours as plans were made and resources allocated. Every shipyard would work around the clock. Every factory would produce weapons and supplies. Every human would contribute to the war effort. As the leaders filed out to return to their nations, President Yoon remained behind with Admiral Nam and Dr. Seo. How long? She asked quietly. 6 months to fully mobilize, the Admiral replied. The aliens think they have won. They will not expect retaliation so quickly. Make sure they remember New Seoul when our ships arrive, the President said. Make sure they understand the price of murdering human children. Admiral Nam saluted. Yes, ma'am. When we find them, they will learn what happens when you attack humanity. They will learn that some mistakes cannot be forgiven. The shipyards of Mars had never seen anything like this. Chief Engineer Bo Ram Han stood on the observation deck and watched 10,000 workers swarm over the massive hull of the new dreadnought Rising Thunder. The ship was 3 kilometers, long and bristled with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. It was one of 50 being built around the clock. How long until she is ready? Asked Admiral Woo Jin Sung, who had arrived from Europa that morning. 18 days for this one, Bo Ram replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. The quantum drive installation is the most time-consuming part, but once we finish the first batch, production will speed up. Admiral Sung nodded and checked his tablet. Europa reports the ice fleet is almost ready. 300,000 ships have been awakened from storage. They are running final systems checks now. Bo Ram had been working for 72 hours straight, but she did not feel tired. None of them did. The images from New Seoul kept everyone awake and angry. Every worker on Mars had seen the recordings of children running in terror. Every engineer had heard Mi Young Choi's desperate plea for help. My daughter was the same age as some of those kids, Bo Ram said quietly. When I think about what those aliens did to them. She did not finish the sentence, but Admiral Sung understood. The anger that burned in Bo Ram's heart was shared by every human in the solar system. It was an anger that would power the greatest military mobilization in history. On Europa, Admiral Sung's teams were breaking massive warships out of the ice where they had been hidden for 20 years. The Europa ice fleet had been the most secret part of Project Nemesis. From space, the moon looked empty and lifeless. But beneath kilometers of ice, 300,000 ships waited in perfect preservation. Captain Min Ho Yu commanded the icebreaker crews that used plasma torches to free the sleeping warships. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, built with the best technology Earth could produce. They had weapons that could turn asteroids to dust and armor that could withstand the heat of stars. Captain, the carrier Eternal Vengeance is free, reported Lieutenant Hana Sung. All systems are green. She is ready for space. Captain Yu smiled grimly. The Eternal Vengeance was designed to carry 500 fighter ships and had enough firepower to destroy a small planet. Soon it would lead humanity's children into battle against the aliens who had murdered their own children. Back on Earth, Colonel Dae-yun Park trained her Special Forces unit in the forests of Korea. Dae-yun was the daughter of Governor Hyun-woo Park, who had died trying to protect New Seoul Colony. She had been off-world when the attack happened, serving with the Colonial Defense Force. Now she led the 1st Vengeance Battalion, made up entirely of people who had lost family on New Seoul. Remember, these aliens showed no mercy to our families, she told her soldiers. They killed children who were playing in gardens. They murdered teachers and doctors and farmers. When we find them, we will show them exactly what that means. Sergeant Young-ho Kim checked his plasma rifle and thought about his parents, who had been teachers on New Seoul. Private So-young Lee cleaned her combat armor and remembered her little brother, who had wanted to be a pilot. Every soldier in the battalion had a personal reason to fight. Their ships bore the names of the dead. The transport, New Seoul's memory, would carry them into battle. The assault ship, Children's Garden, would be their sword. The command vessel, Last Transmission, would coordinate their attacks. Each name was a promise that the fallen would be remembered and avenged. Lieutenant Hai-Wan Jang flew her stealth ship Silent Fury through the darkness between stars. Her mission was the most dangerous of all, to find the Vorthak Empire and learn everything about their military strength. The Silent Fury was invisible to most sensors and could hide among asteroids or inside the shadows of planets. It took her 2 months to find the first Vorthak world. When she saw it, she almost could not believe what her instruments showed her. The planet was covered with the ruins of cities that belonged to other species. The Vorthak had built their own settlements on top of the graves of the aliens they had destroyed. "My God," she whispered as she recorded everything. "They have done this before, many times." Her investigation revealed the horrible truth. The Vorthak Empire had been destroying younger species for thousands of years. They considered it their right as the strongest race in the galaxy. They had wiped out the peaceful Zorians, who were artists and musicians. They had exterminated the Kelthans, who were master builders. They had murdered the Thirans, who were gentle farmers. Humanity was just the latest target in a campaign of genocide that had lasted for millennia. Hai-Wan moved carefully through Vorthak space, using her ship's advanced sensors to map their defenses. She found 17 primary worlds, each heavily fortified with orbital weapons platforms and patrol fleets. The Vorthak military was strong, but it was also overconfident. They had never faced serious resistance from their victims. Their ships were powerful but slow. Their weapons were destructive but had limited range. Their tactics were simple and brutal, overwhelm the enemy with superior numbers and firepower. They had never needed to be clever because they had always been stronger than their opponents. But they had never fought humans before. On the Vorthak homeworld, Warlord Thexakar sat in his command chamber and reviewed reports from across the Empire. His species was tall and gray-skinned, with 4 arms and large black eyes. They moved like giant spiders and communicated through clicking sounds as well as words. "The human world has been cleansed," reported one of his subordinates. "Our ships found no resistance. The primitives were easily destroyed." Thexakar clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "Good. Have the colonization ships been dispatched?" "Yes, Warlord. They will arrive within the month to begin mining operations." The Warlord turned his attention to other matters. The human infestation had been a small problem, easily solved. Their homeworld called Earth was far away, and probably defended by only a few hundred primitive ships. If they tried to retaliate, the Vorthak fleet would crush them just as easily as they had crushed New Seoul. Thexakar had no idea that 700,000 human warships were already moving through space toward his empire. He did not know that. Earth's greatest military minds were studying his defenses and planning his destruction. He had never faced an enemy that could strike back with overwhelming force. The Vorthak Empire had made enemies of the wrong species. Dr. Ye-jin, CO, worked day and night in her laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean. She was perfecting the weapons that would give humanity the advantage in the coming war. The quantum tunneling drives were ready, allowing ships to appear instantly anywhere. In the galaxy, the plasma lance arrays could punch through any armor. The adaptive AI systems would learn and counter enemy tactics in real time. But her greatest creation was the neural link system that would connect every human ship in the fleet. When the battle began, 700,000 ships would fight. as one organism, sharing information and coordinating attacks with perfect precision. "The aliens think they are fighting primitive humans," she told her assistant. "They will discover they are fighting the most advanced military force in galactic history." Admiral Nam stood in the command center and watched status reports flow in from across the solar system. The Mars shipyards were ahead of schedule. The Europa fleet was fully operational. The asteroid bases were armed and ready. Hidden installations throughout the outer planets reported green across all systems. "Admiral, we have a message from Lieutenant Zhang," announced Communications Officer Giho Lim. "She has completed her reconnaissance mission." The data from the Silent Fury appeared on the main screen. 17 Vorthak worlds, all heavily defended. Population estimates, fleet strengths, weapon capabilities, everything humanity needed to plan their attack. They have been committing genocide for thousands of years, Admiral Nam said quietly as he reviewed the intelligence. "They destroyed dozens of species before they found us." Defense Minister Ko joined him at the display. "Then we are not just fighting for New Sol. We are fighting for every species they have murdered. And we are fighting to make sure they never murder again," Admiral Nam replied. "When we finish with them, the galaxy will know that the age of Vorthak terror is over." President Yoon entered the command center, her face grave but determined. "Admiral, how long until the fleet is ready?" 3 more weeks, ma'am. 700,000 ships, all equipped with our best technology. The largest space fleet ever assembled." The president nodded. "Then it is time to send a message to our colonies. Tell them that New Sol will be avenged. Tell them that humanity protects its own." As the final preparations continued, Earth's children spread across the galaxy received the message. On distant worlds, human colonists looked up at the stars and knew that help was coming. The aliens who had murdered innocents would face justice. The storm was gathering, and soon it would break upon the Vorthak Empire with the fury of 700,000 ships and 50 billion angry humans. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone attacked humanity's children. The Vorthak had started this war by murdering defenseless civilians. Humanity would finish it by teaching the galaxy that some crimes could never be forgiven. 6 months after the destruction of New Sol Colony, the largest space fleet in galactic history prepared to bring justice to the Vorthak Empire. Admiral Seung-ho Nam stood on the bridge of humanity's answer, a command ship the size of a small moon. Around him, 700,000 warships waited in the darkness between stars. "All fleets report ready, Admiral," announced Captain Subin Lee from her position at the tactical station. Her fast attack squadrons were hidden just outside Vorthak's sensor range, ready to strike first. Admiral Nam looked at the holographic display that showed every human ship in perfect formation. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets floated, besides swift destroyers and deadly carriers. Each ship represented humanity's anger at the senseless murder of innocent colonists. "Admiral, we are receiving final authorization from Earth," reported Communications Officer Ji-won Park. President Yoon's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, the flags of every nation on Earth stood together. "Admiral Nam, you carry the hopes and fury of 50 billion humans. Show these aliens what happens when they attack our children. Show them that humanity will not be victims." "Yes, ma'am," Admiral Nam replied. "For New Sol." "For New Sol," the president repeated, and the transmission ended. Admiral Nam turned to his crew. These were the best officers in the human fleet, chosen for their skill and their dedication to justice. "All ships, this is Admiral Nam. Today we keep the promise we made to the dead of New Sol Colony. Today we show the galaxy that humanity protects its own. All ships, execute quantum jump." Across 17 different star systems, the Vorthak Empire was about to learn the price of genocide. The first targets were the outer defense stations that protected Vorthak space. Lieutenant Haiwan Zhang's reconnaissance had identified every sensor post and patrol base. Captain Lee's fast attack squadrons appeared simultaneously at all of them, materializing from quantum tunnels like ghosts made real. The Vorthak defenders had no time to react. Human plasma lances struck with surgical precision, disabling communication arrays and weapon systems. Within minutes, the Empire's early warning network was blind and silent. Warlord Thexkar was reviewing mining reports, in his command chamber when his subordinates rushed in with impossible news. "Warlord, We have lost contact with all outer stations, clicked his military advisor. Long-range sensors show massive energy signatures throughout our territory. What kind of energy signatures? Thexkar demanded. Unknown, Warlord. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. Before the Warlord could respond, his tactical display exploded with red warning symbols. Ships were appearing everywhere throughout Vorthak space. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands upon thousands. Impossible, Thexkar whispered. The humans have no fleet. Our intelligence shows they barely have a few hundred ships. Warlord, incoming transmission. It is addressed to you personally. Admiral Nam's face appeared on the screen, his expression cold and determined. Behind him, the Bridge of Humanity's answer hummed with activity as officers coordinated the largest military operation in galactic history. Warlord Thexkar, I am Admiral Seung-Ho Nam of the United Earth Defense Force. You murdered 50,000 innocent humans on New Sol Colony. You killed children who were playing in gardens. You destroyed teachers and farmers and doctors who had never harmed anyone. The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. You believed humanity was weak because we value peace. You were wrong. We value peace, but we value justice more. Today you will answer for every life you took. Thexkar clicked his mandibles in rage. You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? We are the masters of this galaxy. We have destroyed species, far stronger than your primitive race. Yes, we know, Admiral Nam replied calmly. Lieutenant Jang's reconnaissance found the ruins of all your victims. The Zorians, the Kelthans, the Therans. You have been committing genocide for thousands of years. Today it stops. The transmission ended, and Thexkar spun to face his tactical officers. How many ships do the humans have? The officer's hands shook as he read the sensor data. Warlord, our computers show 700,000 human warships, but that cannot be correct. 700,000? Thexkar felt ice form in his four stomachs. The Vorthak Empire had fewer than 50,000 ships scattered across 17 worlds. That is impossible. No species has ever built such a fleet. But even as he spoke, the evidence filled his screens. Human ships surrounded every Vorthak world, outnumbering the defenders by more than 10 to 1. They moved with perfect coordination, striking multiple targets simultaneously. Captain Lee led her squadrons against the orbital fortresses that protected the Vorthak homeworld. The massive stations had been built over centuries and were thought to be impregnable. But human weapons had been designed specifically to break such defenses. All fighters, begin your attack runs, Captain Lee ordered. Remember, these are the aliens who murdered our families. Show them no mercy. Quantum torpedoes struck the station's shields, each impact calculated by AI systems that adapted to the enemy's defensive patterns. Within minutes, gaps appeared in the Vorthak defenses. Human fighters poured through like angry wasps, their pilots thinking of the children who had died on New Sol. Commander Kyung-Soo Lim led the boarding parties that captured key Vorthak ships. His Marines wore powered armor that made them nearly invincible in close combat. They moved through enemy vessels with cold efficiency, stunning Vorthak crew members and taking control of their ships. Remember, we need prisoners, Commander Lim told his troops. The galaxy needs to see these war criminals stand trial. The Vorthak soldiers were terrified by the humans who fought with such precise anger. They had never faced enemies who combined advanced technology with personal fury. Every human Marine fought as if the war was personal, because for them it was. Colonel Da-Yun Park commanded the assault on the Vorthak Military Academy, where future officers were trained. Her first Vengeance Battalion landed on the planet's surface with overwhelming force, their ships blazing with the names of New Sol's dead. "This is for my father," she said as her plasma rifle cut through enemy defenses. Governor Hyunwoo Park had died trying to protect his people. Now his daughter would make sure his sacrifice was remembered. The young Vorthak cadets had been taught that their species was superior to all others. They learned that day how wrong their teachers had been. Human soldiers moved through their academy like a force of nature, capturing everyone alive but leaving no doubt about who now controlled their world. On the Bridge of Humanity's answer, Admiral Nam watched the battle unfold across 17 star systems. The Vorthak fleet tried to coordinate a defense, but human ships appeared everywhere at once through quantum tunnels. Their enemies could not predict where the next attack would come from. "Admiral, the Vorthak are requesting terms for surrender," reported Communications Officer Park. "Tell them we will accept nothing less than unconditional surrender," Admiral Nam replied. "Every war criminal will face trial. Every weapon will be destroyed. Every colony they have taken will be liberated." Warlord Thexkar watched his empire crumble in a single day. Ship after ship reported being overwhelmed by human forces. His grand fleets, built over centuries of conquest, were being destroyed or captured by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. How? He clicked to his advisors. How did they build such a fleet? None of them had answers. The humans had appeared as if from nowhere with weapons that surpassed anything in the Vorthak arsenal. Their ships moved instantly across vast distances. Their weapons cut through Vorthak armor like it was paper. Their coordination was perfect, as if all 700,000 ships shared a single mind. "Warlord, our homeworld defenses have fallen," reported his tactical officer. "Human ships are landing troops in our capital city." Thexkar looked at his command screens and saw the end of everything his species had built. The great Vorthak Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, was being dismantled in a matter of hours. "Open a channel to the human admiral," he ordered. Admiral Nam's face appeared again, but this time Thexkar saw no mercy in the human's eyes. "Do you wish to surrender, Warlord?" "What are your terms?" Thexkar asked, his voice defeated. "Complete and unconditional surrender. You will order all Vorthak forces to lay down their weapons immediately. All war criminals will be handed over for trial. All stolen worlds will be returned to their rightful owners or to species that can protect them. The Vorthak military will be disbanded forever. And if we refuse?" Admiral Nam's expression did not change. "Then we will continue our attack until there are no more Vorthak ships to destroy. You started this war by murdering defenseless civilians. We will finish it by removing your ability to harm anyone ever again." Thexkar looked around his command chamber at the faces of his officers. They all knew the truth. The Vorthak Empire was finished. They could surrender and face justice, or they could die fighting a battle they could never win. "I surrender," he said quietly. "The Vorthak Empire surrenders unconditionally." Admiral Nam nodded. "Commander Lim's Marines will arrive shortly to take you into custody. You will stand trial for genocide and crimes against peaceful species." As human Marines entered his command chamber, Thexkar thought about the human colony his forces had destroyed. 1 year after the fall of the Vorthak Empire, Judge In-suk Yang sat in the great courtroom on Luna Station and looked down at the war criminals who had once terrorized the galaxy. Warlord Thexkar and his commanders sat in special restraint, chairs, their forearms shackled and their black eyes staring at the floor in defeat. The courtroom was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Some were survivors of planets the Vorthak had attacked. Others spoke for extinct races who could no longer speak for themselves. All of them had come to see justice finally served. The charges are genocide, murder of civilians, and crimes against peaceful species, Judge Yang announced. "How do you plead?" Thexkar raised his gray head and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Guilty to all charges." There was no point in denying what everyone knew. The evidence was overwhelming. Videos of the Vorthak destroying innocent colonies. Records of their military meetings where they planned attacks on defenseless worlds. The ruins of civilizations they had wiped out for sport. "The court finds you guilty of the worst crimes imaginable," Judge Yang continued. "You murdered entire species simply because you could. You destroyed children, artists, farmers, and teachers. You turned genocide into policy." The judge paused and looked around the courtroom. In the observer section sat Colonel Da-Yoon Park, whose father had died defending New Seoul. Beside her was Captain Jin-Ho Bae, who had been the first to see the colony's ruins. Representatives from Earth's government watched as justice was finally delivered. "However, this court will not respond to murder with murder," Judge Yang said. "Humanity does not execute prisoners, even those who have committed unforgivable crimes. You will spend the rest of your lives in prison thinking about what you have done." Thexkar actually looked surprised. His species had never shown mercy to defeated enemies. He had expected to die today, and part of him thought he deserved to. The fact that humans would spare his life even after what he had done was something his mind could barely understand. You destroyed 50,000 innocent humans on New Sol Colony, the judge continued. You murdered countless other beings across the galaxy. But humanity will not become like you. We will remain civilized even when dealing with those who were not. As the war criminals were led away to prison ships, General Myung-Soo Choi stood on the observation deck of the memorial, fleet's flagship New Sol's memory. Around him, 50,000 ships patrolled the space that had once belonged to the Vorthak Empire. Each ship bore the name of someone who had died on New Sol Colony. General Choi was Mi-young Choi's older brother. He had heard her final transmission, her desperate plea for help that had reached Earth just moments too late. Now he commanded the memorial fleet that made sure nothing like New Sol would ever happen again. General, we have a distress call from the Kelvaran system, reported. Communications Officer Jemin Song. Pirates are attacking a refugee convoy. Send the 3rd Squadron immediately, General Choi ordered, and remind those pirates that human colonies are under the protection of the Galactic Defense Force. The Kelvaran refugees were survivors of another species the Vorthak had tried to destroy. Like many other races, they had been saved when humanity arrived and defeated their oppressors. Now they lived under human protection while they rebuilt their civilization. Dr. Ye-Jin Seo worked in her new laboratory on Europa, but her mission had changed completely. Instead of building weapons to destroy enemies, she now led teams that used captured Vorthak technology to heal the damage the Empire had caused. Doctor, we have successfully restored the atmospheric processors on Zelrian Prime, reported her assistant. The planet should be habitable again within 5 years. Dr. R. Seo smiled as she looked at the data. Zelrian Prime had been the homeworld of a peaceful species that loved music and art. The Vorthak had poisoned their atmosphere and left their world dead for centuries. Now, human science was bringing it back to life. What about the Therian cultural archives? She asked. We have recovered 60% of their database from the ruins of their capital city. Their poetry and songs will not be completely lost. This was Dr. Seo's new mission, to undo as much of the Vorthak's damage as possible. Humanity had the technology to restore dead worlds and recover lost knowledge. They used it freely to help the survivors of Vorthak genocide. Captain Jin-Ho Bei commanded the flagship of the new Galactic Protection Fleet. His ship, which had once been called Incheon's Blade, now bore the name Hope's Dawn. Its mission was to patrol the galaxy and make sure no other species would suffer what humanity had suffered. Captain, we are detecting unknown ships entering the Proxima system, reported Lieutenant So-Ra Kim. They are approaching the Human Research Station. Captain Bei studied the sensor readings. The ships were unfamiliar, but their approach was not hostile. They moved slowly and broadcast what appeared to be peaceful intentions. Open a channel, he ordered. The alien face that appeared on his screen was unlike anything Captain Bei had seen before. The being had blue skin and large silver eyes. When it spoke, its voice was musical and gentle. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Veltara of the Andorian Republic. We have traveled far to meet the species that defeated the Vorthak Empire. Captain Bei was cautious but polite. Welcome, Ambassador. What can we do for you? We come to offer friendship and alliance. For 3,000 years, our people lived in fear of the Vorthak. They destroyed 2 of our colony worlds and threatened our homeworld many times. When we learned that humans had defeated them completely, we knew we had to meet you. This had been happening throughout the galaxy for months. Species that had hidden from the Vorthak for centuries were now coming out of hiding. They wanted to meet the humans who had ended the Empire's reign of terror. We would be honored to establish diplomatic relations, Captain Bei replied. Humanity seeks peace with all civilized species. Ambassador Veltara's large eyes seemed to shine with relief. Then let this be the first day of friendship between our peoples. You have given us something we had lost. Hope for the future. On Earth, President Yoon Ji-yoon stood before the Global Assembly and delivered her annual address on the state of humanity. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from every nation, and the speech was broadcast to all human colonies throughout the galaxy. 2 years ago, we faced the darkest moment in human history, she began. 50,000 innocent people were murdered simply because they were human. We could have responded with despair. We could have retreated into isolation. Instead, we chose justice. The assembly erupted in applause. Behind the president, a holographic display showed the current state of human space. Hundreds of colonies thrived under the protection of the Galactic Defense Force. Dozens of alien species had requested alliance or protection from Earth. Today, humanity is stronger than ever before. Our technology protects not just ourselves, but dozens of other species who suffered under Vorthak oppression. Our ships patrol the galaxy to ensure that genocide never happens again. President Yoon paused and looked directly into the cameras that broadcast her words across human space. But we must never forget the price of our strength. We must never forget New Sol Colony and the innocent people who died there. Their sacrifice reminds us why we fight and who we protect. Admiral Sung Ho Nam had retired from active duty, but he still visited the New Sol Memorial every year on the anniversary of the attack. The memorial was built on a hill overlooking Geneva, where the decision to go to war had been made. It consisted of 50,000 small lights, one for each person who had died on the colony. As the sun set, Admiral Nam walked among the lights and read the names carved in stone. Governor Hyunwoo Park, who had died trying to protect his people. Teacher Narai Kim, who had held her students as the building collapsed. So Min Lee, the 8-year-old girl who had wanted to be a farmer. Dong Hyun Kim, the boy who had dreamed of flying among the stars. "We remembered you," he said quietly to the memorial. "We kept our promise." A gentle breeze stirred the flags that surrounded the memorial. Each flag represented one of the nations that had united to avenge New Sol. For the first time in human history, all of Earth had spoken with one voice. As Admiral Nam prepared to leave, he noticed a young woman placing flowers at the memorial. She had the same features as Governor Park, and he realized she must be Colonel Da-Yoon Park, the governor's daughter who had led the assault on the Vorthok Military Academy. "Colonel," he said, approaching her respectfully. She looked up and saluted. "Admiral Nam, I come here every year to visit my father." They stood together in comfortable silence, looking at the memorial lights that twinkled like stars. Each light represented a life that had been cut short, but also a promise that had been kept. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Colonel Park asked quietly. 700,000 ships, an entire empire destroyed. Was it worth it? Admiral Nam considered the question carefully. "Your father tried to surrender. He broadcast peaceful intentions. The Vorthak ignored him and murdered everyone anyway. They had been doing the same thing to other species for thousands of years." He gestured toward the memorial. "These people died because the galaxy had no one strong enough to stop genocide. Now it does. How many species are alive today because we stopped the Vorthak Empire?"